told you it was love. They convinced you it was normal. They made you believe the problem was you. But somewhere beneath the confusion, the self-doubt, the endless explanations that never quite made sense, you knew something was wrong. This is where we stop pretending. This is where we examine what they never wanted you to see. The patterns that controlled you, the systems that protected them.
For your tushy, it's made by angels, soft and strong, budget friendly. The choice is simple, a roll that feels like paradise, and always at a heavenly price. Angel soft, soft and strong, so it's simple. Pick up a pack today.
Angel Soft,
soft and strong, simple.
If you've ever found yourself trying to make positive changes or set boundaries, only to be met with explosive anger, silent treatments, or emotional sabotage from the family member or partner who scapegoated you, you're not imagining it. There's something particularly crushing about finally gathering the courage to stand up for yourself or work towards something better, only to have the person who's supposed to care about you actively work against your progress. Maybe you decided to go back to school, and suddenly they're finding every reason why it's a terrible idea. Or you set a simple boundary about how you want to be spoken to, and they respond with days of cold silence or accusations that you're being dramatic. Welcome back to the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast. I'm Lynn, your host. Today, we're talking about how the people who scapegoat us often become the biggest obstacles to our growth and progress, and why their poor emotional regulation isn't your problem to manage. This dynamic where someone consistently impedes your progress through emotional chaos is a deliberate way they maintain control and avoid facing their own issues. In narcissistic family systems and relationships, whoever holds the power position often lacks the emotional tools to deal with discomfort or change. When you start growing, healing, or asserting yourself, it threatens the entire structure they've built around keeping you in the scapegoat role. Think about how a well-regulated person responds when someone they care about wants to make positive changes. They might feel some initial discomfort if change affects them, but they work through it. They communicate. They support growth even when it's inconvenient. They don't make your progress about them. But the person who scapegoated you, they can't do that. Instead of adapting or dealing with their own feelings about change, they use outbursts, manipulation, or passive-aggressive tactics to keep you stuck exactly where they need you to be. Their emotional regulation is so poor that any shift in the dynamic sends them into chaos, and they expect you to manage that chaos by staying small. You might have experienced this as explosive anger when you try to assert independence. The parent who throws adult temper tantrums because you're not available to manage their emotions anymore. The partner who rages when you stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault. These aren't normal responses to healthy change. They're desperate attempts to maintain control. Or maybe you've dealt with the silent treatment version. You set a reasonable boundary, and suddenly you're getting the cold shoulder for days or weeks. They withdraw affection, attention, or basic civility as punishment for daring to have needs or standards. This isn't mature conflict resolution. It's emotional manipulation designed to train you back into compliance. Then there's the subtle sabotage. Your goals get labeled as selfish or unnecessary. Your progress gets minimized or dismissed. They find ways to create chaos right when you're trying to focus on something positive. They remind you of every past mistake whenever you're trying to move forward. This isn't coincidence. It's a pattern of deliberately undermining your sense of safety and progress. The really insidious part is how they make you question whether you're the problem. When someone responds to your growth with emotional chaos, it's easy to think maybe you're asking for too much. Maybe you should just go back to how things were. Maybe peace is more important than progress, but that's exactly what they're counting on. Here's what's actually happening. They're having an emotional regulation problem, and they're making it your responsibility to fix it by staying stuck. Their inability to handle discomfort becomes your reason to stop growing. Their fear of accountability becomes your reason to keep accepting blame. Their emotional immaturity becomes your constraint on progress. This pattern reveals something crucial about who they really are. A person who genuinely cares about your well-being doesn't sabotage your progress. A person with healthy emotional regulation doesn't punish you for having boundaries. A person who takes accountability doesn't create chaos to avoid looking at themselves. When someone responds to your growth with emotional warfare, they're telling you everything you need to know about their priorities. Your healing threatens their control. Your boundaries threaten their access. Your progress threatens their narrative about who's the problem in this relationship. The real issue lies in their emotional immaturity and desperate need to stay superior, not in your efforts to grow or recover. You're not responsible for managing their feelings about your progress. You're not required to stay small so they can stay comfortable. You're not obligated to sacrifice your growth to maintain their version of peace. This isn't about your ability or worth. It's about a toxic system desperately resisting change because the person avoiding accountability thrives on keeping you confined to the scapegoat role. When you understand this dynamic, you can stop taking their emotional chaos personally and start seeing it for what it really is, their problem, not yours. Every time they respond to your progress with poor emotional regulation, they're proving that they're not safe people to share your growth with. Every tantrum, every silent treatment, every act of sabotage is evidence that they're more invested in control than in your well-being. Here's your reflection question for today. When have you noticed that your attempts to change or set boundaries were met with emotional chaos or sabotage? And what does that reveal about who truly fears accountability in your dynamic? This is Lynn, and this has been another episode of the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast. I'll see you in the next one. Visit our website at movingforwardafterabuse.com for articles, resources, and more support on your recovery journey. Thanks so much for listening today. If scapegoating has been part of your story, know that you're not alone in this, and healing is absolutely possible. If you're ready to take the next step in your healing journey, I've created Forward Rising Academy with an Intro to Narcissistic Abuse Recovery course. This course walks you through the foundations of understanding what happened to you and how to start rebuilding your life. You can find that along with other resources at waketheelephant.gumroad.com. And for additional resources, head over to our website at movingforwardafterabuse.com. This is Lynn, and this has been another episode of the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast. I'll see you in the next one. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The content shared is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, please seek help from a qualified professional or contact a local crisis hotline.
Try angel soft for your tushy. It's made by angels. Soft and strong, budget friendly. The choice is simple. Pick up a pack today. Angel Soft. Soft and strong, simple.
We need to keep kids safe online, but some special interests are sending policymakers in the wrong direction, pushing the so-called App Store Accountability Act, demanding government ID from all users just to download an app, replacing parents' judgment with government mandates. It doesn't even stand up in court. A better bipartisan bill, the Parents Over Platforms Act, would put parents in the driver's seat, empowering parents and businesses to keep kids safe without drowning all of us in red tape. Tell Congress to get it done right and put parents over platforms.
Paid for by ACT, the App Association.
This work is hard, really hard. Questioning everything you were taught, seeing systems that were invisible, sitting with truth that change how you see the world. It's exhausting and overwhelming sometimes. There's no timeline for this, no right way to process it. We've gone daily now because these conversations matter. Subscribe so new episodes land automatically when they drop.